on this and this. They check the volatility correlation between things and cost of things and this to see how sticky these costs are. The sticky portion will be fixed cost. Even if sales volume goes down, this cost doesn't change. Stay at certain level, fixed cost. So by running regression, time series regression over a 20, 30 years of available data, they find out sticky point in their cost, and they determine that sticky point to be fixed cost. Everything over, if economy is good, sales volume goes up, that will be variable cost. How accurate that measurement is almost perfect. Almost same as internal file here. As long as you have a number of years of data. So how much of econometric tool we need to find out? You don't need that. You need only Excel spreadsheet file. Excel spreadsheet will handle simple regression. Y equals A plus BX plus E. So the Excel spreadsheet will find out sticky point, and the one more challenge for us as a professional advisor, investors or advisors for investors, we need to understand the sticky point in here. Understanding simple regression, that shouldn't be a problem. It's just as long as you know limitation of a simple regression, there are 4 or 5 major limitations, and there's a way to check whether you are committing that a error in interpreting the result. This will be really, really valuable information. This is for outside readers, stakeholders. This is for management planning purpose. Now, for our purpose, we'll make this journal for investors, financial analysts purpose. This is the investing purpose. We'll make this journal actually for say income statement. We'll say, oh, okay, how much is operating revenue? Operating. How much is a non-operating revenue? Operating here, operating income, operating expense, non-operating expense. This was the whole exercise we did in a module 3. In other words, these two, good. It's a good to know information about how much you pay to each a trade partner here, and employees and government. How much is stock? How much is contingent upon the production volume? That's good to know. That's not good enough because stock market, if you look at a research output, stock market will react a operating revenue. In other words, non-operating revenue is transitory revenue. Transitory. Meaning it may not repeat next year. Stock market reaction to non-operating revenue or non-operating expense is a minimum. One time. It's not going to repeat next year. So what item they usually pay attention here? Stock market pay attention to operating revenue and operating expense because this is core revenue. They say permanent revenue, core revenue, and this will increase a future cash flow, therefore increase a future stock prices, decrease stock price. So Module 3, if I summarize, we still need this, but we reformulate, we say recast or reformulate our financial statement this way, so that since stock market reacts mostly to here, we segregate this find out how much they are a value relevant. We say value relevant. So what we do in terms of balance sheet, see, conventional balance sheet is okay. We do current asset, non-current asset, total asset, current liability, non-current liability, total stockholders' equity, and you add these two. So that is good. That has been good format ever since 1929. Market crashed, and all they want to know after that point is how soon they might file bankruptcy. Do they have enough cash to pay interest to bank? That's all they want to know. After market scare, 29. But we are not that anymore now. This is bank, financial institution, creditor-friendly balance sheet. What is the investor-friendly balance sheet? What? Operating asset, operating liabilities, and non-operating asset, non-operating liability, and what is the term that if you subtract operating liability, operating asset? NOA. Yeah, NOA. What is the difference between non-operating asset and non-operating liability? Non-operating liability is usually higher because of, except for the financial institution, manufacturing, retail, they will have more non-operating liability.
NNE.
So,
NNE.
Huh?
NNE.
Okay. Almost.
One value.
NNE.
First one to the text.
NNE is net non-operating expense income statement, and NNEP, yeah, that is this. NNEP is NNE over NNO, average NNO, right? Yes. What?
No.
It all comes back, right? It all comes back. We spent whole 4 hours on this. This is a percentage. So given that, what is the total net expense? Net non-operating expense. This is a net of non-operating income. In other words, what is the net expense given this much of debt? Has to be an average NNO. So yeah, here this is new format of balance sheet that we need, and reformulated balance sheet, because this is good for bank. And banks want to find out how much is working capital here. Current asset minus current liability is working capital. Oh, these guys have a $2 million working capital. Oh, they shouldn't have trouble paying my interest. This is the best. This is the best. And this has been good format ever since market crash 29. One FASB agenda, big agenda, is to change financial statement from a creditor-friendly financial statement to investor financial statement. It will be here. And the IFRS does not not use this format. IFRS is more close to investor-friendly format of a financial statement. So, if you add these two up, that will be what? Total asset, right? If you add these two up, this will be total liability. So if you subtract total liability from total asset, that will be total stockholders' equity. Therefore, if you subtract NNO from NOA, this will be also exactly. This is the formula. In other words, if you subtract from conventional financial statement here, operating asset, non-operating, total, operating liability, non-operating liability, total liability. Total asset minus total liability is stockholders' equity. Therefore, NOA minus NNO will be still TSE. We just switch around some of the items for our purpose to find out. Well, in this way, we know how much of asset has been used. Therefore, RNOA, anyone remember formula RNOA?
PMOA divided by PMOT.
Oh, okay, that's good. RNOA is functional profitability and turnover. That's a two-way dimension. Since we have these financial statements, we'll do this notepad.
Over average and okay.
Yes, average NOA here. Notepad. I think I post sample midterm question to your archive, right? Yes. That will look like this. No?
It was just a balance sheet.
Not aware of? I
Wasn't it?
post this file to your archive. If I find it, just let me know. I do that.
It was just a bunch of financial statements. There weren't any questions or answers. I think this is a different version if you scroll down there, right? Yeah,
Ours
that's
is an
not the
Excel
version.
file.
It's just a file with the financial statements, no question, no answer, nothing.
I will post it.
Okay.
It's not too late. It's next week.
Yeah, that's why I didn't email you.
So it's a snap on. Maybe I post the.
I did print him. It's right there. It's incomplete.
Project file.
I was like,
Given this financial statement here, I asked a bunch of questions here. Now, find out a NAE. Given, I gave only balance sheet, NAE, non-operating expense after. Well, why NAE has to be after tax basis? Because if you look at here, everything after net income and how much shareholders will make has to be after tax basis because net income is after tax basis. So NNE must exclude tax percentage. So net of tax basis, and you add them up, a non-controlling interest, total NNE for 2011, 46 and 40 million. And NNO, also NNE over average NNO, that's the NNEP. NNEP will be used to find out operating spread because financial leverage and RNOA minus NNEP will give you operating spread, and that will be portion half, second half of ROE margin. RNOA plus this financial leverage multiplied by you have a spread, and financial leverage will be ROE, and I promise I will post extra solution for a module 3 so that you have a couple more sample questions to look at here. Here, ROE, the RNOA here, financial leverage and spread. And this spread is RNOA and NEP. RNOA and NEP here. And we all know why we go through this rigorous process, because here, ROE, either way, you should have the same ROE percentage. This is the net income over stockholders' equity, and this is also here, RNOA, different formula, same percentage here. Then why we bother go through all this strange calculation? Well, we want to know how much is from a operation, how much is from leverage. If you make most money from leverage, once you collapse, you really collapse. There's no way you can come back. If I know my here, RNOA is 14.8 here, and then total ROE is 18.9. So I know from leverage, about 4% is coming. 4% is coming from a leverage, and that is also case here. Now here 12% of this. Now this is 1.6. 1.6 percentage is of ROE is coming from a financial leverage. In other words, are you taking your company to risky position to post higher ROE? That's usually the case, because CEO doesn't have a long-term contract. They live quarter by quarter. If they post higher EPS than same quarter last year, they survive. They survive. So all decision they are making, they say, is myopic. Paper profit. Short sight. In other countries, they reward managers based upon how much output, how much merchandise they sold, how much production value increased. Here, stock price, quarterly EPS, paper profit. So, since I don't have long-term contract, I have a strong incentive as a manager, CEO, to take company to risky position, high leverage, so that I get maximum of this. But if you look at this formula, there is no way you can find out how much is coming from where. Here, net income over stockholders' equity. That's why we go through this. Let's take out your chapter 3 homework. The simple exercise, but then we need to I gave you for project, I gave you feedback through computers, the emails. Not here.
No. But I am. I think that's the group thing, right? That's the blueprint you're talking about?
No, individual homework.
No, that.
Oh, this one is
Yeah.
okay. I gave already. You got my email.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
get it. Yeah. Good.
Let's take out module 3 because both were tricky. Some of them are tricky, and I will say what I will do next week with respect to your meeting exam. For module 1 and 2, just introduction. So I'm not going to bother much of simply. See, for income statement and balance sheet, I will let you know which item is operating or non-operating. For non-operating, I will simply say in other words, without knowing operation inside and out, we don't know whether that item is operating, non-operating. So what I will do, for example, for your midterm exam next week, I will say, okay, now I will put here none, okay? That is financial service revenue will be non-operating revenue, right? So what you do is this. If I, for both balance sheet and income statement, if both income statement balance sheet, I will say that total asset minus non-operating asset will be operating asset. In other words, non-operating asset, one or two few items, so total asset minus this will give you operating asset. For NOA computation, use this one instead of adding all non-operating asset, which is 20, 30 items here, right? Easiest way. That's why in both income statement balance sheet, I will say for non-operating item here, none. So that you just, module 3 is very important. 1 and 2, you already know most of the 1 and 2, except for a few concept introduction. But module 3, this is the essence of a financial statement analysis. So you will be given a balance sheet and income statement of a major public corporation, and I will ask how much is our NOA, how much is NAP, how much is our NOA and ROE, why there is a huge difference, what is the impact of financial leverage. We should be able to answer those type of questions after module 3.
So the exam is just gonna be on module 3, it's not gonna be on 4? We're going over 4 today, right?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, 3.
And then we can have a page of notes? To bring? Did you say we could have a page?
Yeah,
to bring?
okay.
And a calculator, right?
Okay, calculator, not the
Excel.
not the Excel or the just calculator. Yeah, one page, double side. I mean, I don't. If I were you, I simply have that formula, couple formula here. Nice looking formula. and then look at the financial statement, and you go by a line by line and plug the numbers through into this formula, and that will be it. Any questions?
It's not taking the whole class, probably like an hour, right? I'm assuming the exam?
Hour and a half.
Yeah. And then you're gonna teach for the second half?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, 4 hour exam, I don't want to.
I don't want any.
That would be really be too much for most of us.
Questions?
Mm-hmm.
One.
One
One
question.
question.
One question with 18 parts, right?
What question?
Right.
How many questions is it?
Oh, 4, 5 questions. 4, 5.
Like just based on one set of financials though, right? 4 or 5 questions based on one set of financials.
4, 5 questions, big 4, 5 questions. One big module 3 will be balance sheet, income statement, and I ask 5, 6 questions. How much is R&R, NOA? How much is
Just like the home.
Just like
just like homework? 3-36,
Thank you.
There you go.
41.
Not 41.
41.
I'm not the only one.
I
Okay, yeah.
Well, not much different, not much different here. That's why all of a sudden I get this complete attention from the class.
It's only 25%. Everything else covers it. Homework.
The way I compute here, NOA, look at here. No we should be very comfortable. You add that bracket. In other words, interest expense multiplied by tax rate. You add them to tax to subtract from operating income. If that is interest income, that has to be minus, right? This has to be minus. If this is a net interest income instead of interest expense, this has to be minus, right? In this case, this is interest expense. And the way I calculate here NOA, total asset, and there are cash, marketable securities, short-term and long-term, 3 items out of big financial statement. So if I subtract a non-operating asset, which is financial asset, from total asset, that will give you operating asset, net operating asset, and this is the operating liability total. But this only item here is out of the current liability, non-operating liability, short-term debt. So if you subtract this from current liability, everything else is operating liability. Operating liability. So if you subtract operating liability from operating asset, that is NOA. Minimum computation. I don't want to add all a operating assets and operating liability, and then together subtract from the total operating asset, because that will takes a lot of time and prone to make easy calculation mistake. So you subtract from total, and that is the best way to handle it. So as you can see here, 5, 6 questions, and instead of what? After mechanical calculation, we should understand why we are doing all this process. And this is the reason, the information we are gathering. This is why you some of you subscribe to financial analyst website by paying the annual fee, buying this ID and password, because they are analyzing financial statement this way, and they give you plain English explanation of what they are doing. Maybe Wall Street, accountant, number 1 job. Analyze different way, reformulate, and then find out their operating characteristics, and then how much they are relying on leverage and all these things. You don't know from a conventional financial statement. Okay, so we all set. We all set for. I will post solution for number 3, module 3, either today or tomorrow, with extra questions so that you have extra. Anyone know what the halo effect? Halo effect from management class. Halo, H-A-L-O, halo. Halo effect. Never heard of it? If you set standard high for the first time, this is between you and your spouse, between you and your colleague, between you and yourself. If you set the standard for the first time high, there is a high chance that you will keep that standard for the rest of the period. What I'm trying to say is, if you do well on the first income, it's high likelihood that you will do good for second and all the way to final, because you are under pressure to maintain that a standard. Halo effect. Okay, so we all set for the now, before we go to a rigorous analysis of actual company cases and managerial behavior with respect to financial reporting from modules 5, 6, 7, and on. Now, before we go there, we'll go over today a module 4 of credit risk analysis and interpretation. Now, as we saw from last week briefly, let's go here. I think that's my favorite financial statement. This part is right here. Now, income statement. Let's look at income statement. First, cost of financing, cost of using someone else's money is 2.5 billion interest expense. 2.6, 4.9 billion. How much they are making? Operating income is about 20 billion. 5 billion is cost of using someone else's money. They are lucky, but if with this low interest environment, if they pay 5 billion or 5%, let's say they pay average 5%, how much debt they must have?
100 billion.
100 billion. That's why last week we confirmed their long-term debt over here.
Okay.
Long-term debt. This is December 31st, 2014, 13, 12. Now, $47 billion, 89, 110 billion. 110 billion, about $5 billion interest expense for every year. But that's the only long-term debt. Other debt total $220 billion. For total assets of $232 billion, their total liability is how much? 220. Stockholders' equity is $12 billion. What is the debt equity ratio? Debt equity. Debt equity ratio. Then how come you were able to keep borrowing money from financial institutions? Look, why a major bank, a group of banks are willing to lend money to a Verizon when their debt equity ratio is what? About what? This what? Debt equity ratio.
5%.
5%? See? If this is more than 2 to 1, usually for manufacturing retail, you don't have to go back. They will say come back when your debt equity ratio is lower than 2 to 1. This is 2 to 1, what? More than 10 times, right? 20 times, about 20 times.
Yeah, it's 20 to 1, yeah.
20 to 1. But they can still borrow money from financial institutions. Why do you think Verizon can borrow money with this much of leverage? Because they are Verizon. That's the management answer. We need the accounting answer here. In management class, that will be it. Yep.
Well, the fact that the cost of borrowing is so low, the borrowing is able to generate enough to offset the interest that the bank's gonna charge.
Oh, operating spread is hugely positive. Bank will know with this low interest environment, they will make more than a interest payment. So operating spread is big. Why? But then we just find out they are paying $5 billion out of about what, 15, 20?
20.
$20 billion operating income. They are paying $5 billion, which is what?
20%.
25%? Isn't it way too much? Is it okay? But what if Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, all of a sudden decide to go to rate hike? Look, we've been in this low environment for 7 years. 8 years now, 8 years. It's time to raise interest rate. And that will trickle down to from Federal Reserve all the way to the bank, and bank must increase their interest rate. And that will be $7, $8, $9 billion easily, right? Are you still comfortable lending money because they are making operating spread? That's the operating spread. Why? This is a good question. Some business, they are not bounded by direct durations, like this price. This is cash business. Cash. The bill, they have accuracy of collecting their bill, 99%, they exactly know for the next 10 years how much will be their operating cash inflow. They exactly calculated how much debt they can afford. But then even then, this is scary. Here, long-term debt, 47 over 210. 5 billion interest cost with this low interest environment. If that is, let's say, only 2,000, that will be easily over 100,000. But it will be 10 billion. 5 billion interest expense because this is the all-time low interest environment. So this is the area of analysis before you do the investment decision, because as we saw, taking this much of debt will impact negatively on your income statement and earnings per share and future cash flow, because $5 billion, no matter how big size company size it is a substantial amount of an interest payment. So this is a simple example where we see the significant implication of a long-term debt on their financial reporting. So let's go over, well, this is an extreme, rather a little bit extreme case. So we'll go over here. loan with companies like Verizon to supply the credit. Well, a bank, a private equity fund, and a wealthy individual, white knight fund. All these people with a lot of money is making more money by lending this the money to corporations and startup companies. Now, most companies for operating, investing, and financing activities. For operating, this is good. When you want to purchase inventory, let's say 80% of the sales revenue is coming from holiday sale at the end of the October through December year end. Now, in order to make that much of 80% of the sales during that 2-month, 3-month period, you need a chunk of money to pile up your inventory. You need a loan. If that is the case, we say that's a bridge loan. Bridge. You don't have much of a risk as a bank because you know 80% of the total sales is coming from this 2-month period. They will turn into cash right away. They are comfortable charging a reasonable interest rate for that. Investing, this is huge sum of money for capital intensive. If they want to invest in capital project, multi-million, billion-dollar loan will be available for a credit-worthy companies. And this is the reason why they are evaluating a long-term capital expenditure quality of investment opportunity set. They check past history of CEO decision making with respect to long-term capital expenditure to see whether they have credible a history with respect to using this multi-billion-dollar investment money. Problem, financing. You either replacing a old debt with a new debt, or you borrow money to pay dividend. You borrow money from the bank and pay dividend to shareholders. They are diverting creditor fund to shareholders. That's why for most of the debt covenant, the loan period for the next 10 years, you are not allowed to pay cash dividend for most of the debt covenant. Or for with this money for the next 5 years, 10 years, you are not supposed to purchase your stock back. If you have extra cash, yes, that's your business. But you don't use my loan money to purchase your stock back, which is equivalent to that dividend. Much more effective dividend. So we'll take a look at loan for this, and this separately, which is different. If you go to bank and say, I need a home equity loan, I am sure they will ask what improvement you are thinking about. No, actually, I want to buy a car. After 2007, I don't need that. Before 2007, yes, they did ask. Supply, creditors, bank, public debt investors, and private lenders. The difference is this. If I purchase someone else's bond, I know exactly how much I will be making because with minimal a risk of bankruptcy, if you have debt, if you have a bond investment is usually one unit is $1,000, and when they usually sell this bond security, they will say, okay, package. I will package 1 unit of bond plus 3 common stock plus 2 preferred stock. This will be one package. If you want to buy bond, you have to buy the package. It's in Microsoft office package. It just can't be. I know you don't use many of the, all you need is a Word and PowerPoint and maybe Excel, but you have to buy this big. Why? This is the package. See, wait, for this company, this is very attractive investment. They are struggling here. Doesn't matter. You have to buy the package. That way, you raise capital. That way, the package deal. So one junior bond is $1,000. But when I purchase this, I know I will get, for example, 4% per annum. Annual interest rate is 4%. And there is minimal risk of bankruptcy because bankruptcy risk is really low as long as you purchase a investment grade. Triple B above will be investment grade, and investment grade there is a much less chance of filing bankruptcy as opposed to junk bond. Junk bond is a BB plus, a BB minus, all the way CD, right? So here I have minimal risk here, minimal risk, but then even if this company makes billions of money, I don't get extra return. I simply get paid 4% interest rate per year. That's it. But for stock, that's not the case. Upside potential is unlimited. If they came up with one cancer drug, for example, stock price will skyrocket. And upside potential. Well, I heard this story of investing in a biotech company, and over a week or 2 week period, $10,000 investment became $500,000 and $1 million. While ago. Upside potential is unlimited. Downside risk is also unlimited. It can be scrap paper overnight, right? There's no guarantee. That's the difference. In other words, fixed income as opposed to upside and downside. So here, the reading financial statement for this guy, stock investors, rigorous. They will dissect all financial statements here to find out chances for this, chances for this. But here, if you're a bond investor, you don't need rigorous analysis. All you need to do is, well, since there is a less chance of filing bankruptcy as long as you stay with, of course, that would be a different story if you invest in junk bond here, CD. No, that would be a different story. But as long as you invest in investment grade and up, minimal risk with fixed return, and that will be different.
No.
Stretchy.
It's the downside risk, it's not unlimited though, right? It's just limited to your investment.
Exactly.
So it would be the same for bond, right?
Well, for bond, for creditors, if they file bankruptcy, creditor will have a priority of claim. Before shareholder comes, by selling asset, you will get first, maybe not 100%, but you will get money back as a bondholder because you are creditor. According to marshalling of asset rule, when they go out of business, liquidation rule says this: cash distribution plan must include creditors first, operating creditors, suppliers next, and then all the way bottom, common stockholders. So they don't get anything. A bondholder is the first claim. So downside risk in terms of bankruptcy, yes, there is, but then not like here. This one, few cents. Oh, for good example would be unknown. Unknown went all the way up here, stock prices, and few pennies, right before bankruptcy, few pennies. This is bankruptcy. We was scrapping. The transaction cost was more than selling those stocks right before crisis. So yes, they will lose money, but not as much as here. So law protects bondholders because they are not investing money for a great, unexpected potential. They are investing for a fixed amount of operating activity. Operating. Credit terms, do we all know credit terms? How many of you handle your clients at your company? What kind of credit you give out to your clients? At first. COD, COD, and then net 30, after a while, 210 net 30, 110 net 30, net 60, discount, 2-3 net 10, and then 60, 90. You give more and more generous term for this credit term as you pile up your credit with, and this is true for any company here. When you borrow money from the bond market or when you raise capital from stock market, how much you can raise is a function of credibility, how much credibility you have. In other words, for this is how much you are asking per share. Inside the stock market, you are selling millions of shares, and this is how much you are asking. You are a startup company, you've been around only few years, and they say, well, with 2-3 years of financial statement and not much credibility, past experience, well, I can offer give you this. And per share, 1 million shares, this will be discount on your company because look, I don't have your past experience, history, and you don't have enough credibility with the capital market. But if IBM or any other credible company will go to stock market and asking for 10, well, more, they will get a $10 because they've been around many years and they exactly know their operation inside and out. So this is also true for a corporation. And credibility is one aspect of bond rating. We'll get to bond rating later on. Bond rating. There are many components or factors that affect a bond rating of a given company. Now, one of the main components affecting bond rating is credibility. If CEO has a history of a overriding financial reporting rules, I don't think they will get any good rating because management integrity, see S&P and Moody give grade for CEOs. Grade. This is really embarrassing for CEO. If you get C, this is a grade. Who's getting C? Whoever has a history of overriding internal control, overriding from accounting perspective, overriding a financial report. Don't respect. We don't have any respect for financial reporting. They just who was that guy? Sunbeam. His management style was you just import impose target sales. If you don't meet, terminate right after that, and that you have to post that a target sales. So this is capital market take this is very seriously, and bond rating agency like Moody's and Standard and Poor is taking management integrity very seriously. So that explains why more and more Fortune 500 CEOs, CFO have CPA license and CFA license. You check that. Check that. Either they have CNA, some of them CNA manufacturing, and CPA, many of them, for banking and financial institutions, CFA, CEO, not, well, for sure, CFO, yeah, CFO must have something for handling numbers, but even CEO, that's great. And S&P and Standard and Poor will examine CEO's educational background also, how many courses they take in ethics, accounting, finance, economics. If they come out of nowhere, you have to show your credibility over time by making good decisions. You don't get any free right there. Routine low risk need created by site what the one I explained. Bridge loan. This is the so-called bridge loan. From October to December year end, bridge loan, seasonal purchase. Operating losses. Look, I am losing money right now. I need money for operation. Can I borrow money? Well, that will cost you a lot because you are trying to cover operating losses. See, it's here. It's easy to borrow money when you say, I want to go to school and get degree and advance my career, instead of I need money for my living expense. No, I'm not suggesting anything. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. this is it. Corporation also say. You know, this is, you know, make or break depends on one good loan. If you have a willing creditor who are willing to give you a fresh loan, that will decide make it or break it for your company. In other words, that's how important this is. 1970s, 60s, late 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Firms in this country report millions of net income. Wow, stock price is going up, millions of net income year after year. They file Chapter 11 right away. After 10 years of millions of net income, how come they file Chapter 11 bankruptcy? What was the problem?
They were covering operating losses with that.
Yeah, what? But the aggressive financial reporting, in other words, they are reporting huge income, but then cash didn't follow. Yeah. If you do, I have this much of an asset receivable, you report revenue here, right hand side, but then this account receivable or any other financing receivable never turn into cash. Small portion. So after millions of revenue recognition, net income, and net income reflect on stock prices, stock price collapse. When they find out, they report aggressive asset value and revenue and net income. When they find out this, banks were not willing to make a fresh loan, obviously, and they filed bankruptcy. That's why 1987, this is the reason why 1987, we are not responsible for 1987 accounting. but 1987 and on, one of the four major financial statements was statement of changes in financial position, which is what? Balance sheet change became statement of
Cash
cash flow. This is the accrual statement. So before 1987, four statements were what? A accrual basis. There's no way how much cash is involved. So the accounting rule says, fairly, okay, now show me the money. I know you're doing good. Balance sheet, income statement, that's good enough. That I know how much money, but show me the money, and that will be statement of cash. You have to show money in and out for doing different activities. Operating, income statement. Investing, left-hand side of balance sheet. Financing, right-hand side of balance sheet. Cash flow statement, balance sheet, income statement, major improvement. This is the only accounting standard which was subject to minimal A modification. Yeah, there are many questions about linear method. But that is not the issue, because you can convert an accrual basis of a financial statement into operating cash flow. That was the issue back then. Now everyone is using that for that. So this has to do with this one. In other words, they must show a true picture of financial position, how much loan, what kind of a loan they have, what kind of risk level they are dealing with from a financial institution point of view. Well, investing activity. This is the ideal case to make the bank, financial institution to borrow money. Billions of dollars. Actually, for Fortune 100 company, this would be $2-3 billion. If you look at their bond payable, long-term debt, they are borrowing billions of dollars for this long-term capital project, such as new equipment or merger and acquisition. Timing can vary in terms of timing and amount. Long-term debt used for startup and growth. Well, long-term debt, the startup, the most, you say merger and acquisition, the merger and the startup. Here, for startup, private equity fund is commonly used. These are through people who know their operation inside and out. I know they will succeed. Bank will not understand this operation. Look, brand new startup company in Silicon Valley, how much bank has expertise to find out how much they will make in years down the road. So they don't have any expertise. But these people, wealthy individuals, who have expertise in that area, look, you know what? I think you will be very successful. I will charge 2-3% higher than market rate. I will advance this money, and then I need X amount of stock option. I need one board position. They are asking all this. So this private equity fund, you, according to research, make extra return over and above what market makes for the similar risk. Because they are taking on huge risk, but then they know their office inside out, operations inside and out. For a M&A, once you become a target, this is the word, this is acquire. You are acquiring some company. If you are being a target by hostile takeovers such as Carl Icahn and Stephen Pickens, you look for a white knight fund. You need someone to rescue. And white knight fund is this. Okay, in order to defend your company, I need $2 billion. And these white knight funds obviously asking extra return, asking change in corporate governance, and they got what they want while they advancing their money to rescue this company from hostile takeover. So there are many different ways of structuring your debt between lenders and debtors, and we will go over predictable capital expenditure pattern often has mature firm. If you've been around 100 years, I heard there are 12, 13 firms in the United States that are older than 100 years. Here, what we are using for that part is a free cash flow. Free cash flow is operating cash flow minus 5 years. We usually add 5 years of a capital expenditure and divide by 5, and that will be 5-year average subtract. In other words, whatever is left over to use free cash flow is from your operating cash flow. You need a minimum 5-year average capital expenditure to replace aging assets. In other words, if you don't replace aging assets, well, your asset will be too old at some point. So you keep replacing aging assets to stay alive, to bring fresh cash flow. So this, what some financial analysts add cash dividend. Here, cash dividend. Since you can back it out from a paying dividend, they add this. But this free cash flow concept, capital expenditure, is free cash flow is very important concept. The higher the free cash flow, market doesn't like it most of the time. The higher the cash flow, stock price usually negatively react. Well, it all depends on you, what kind of growth opportunity you have, what kind of risk position you have. But on the average, stock market doesn't like a lot of free cash flow because they know managers will abuse, misuse that free cash flow for their personal use, like buying private jet. Using all free cash flow. It's a free because it's a shareholders fund. I don't get any credit for reporting that much of income. So why don't I use it for myself? We say agency cost. There are huge agency costs with a free cash flow. Agency cost. In other words, most of the free cash flow will be used by managers, and we call that as agency cost. How you minimize the agency cost? Your shareholders, you are holding 20% of shares in that company, and there's huge agency costs, as you can see. How would you minimize? Only problem is your company is in California, you are sitting in New Jersey. What kind of mechanism?
You might want to give him stock options, stock.
Options.
So he gets his cash from his dividends, give him an incentive to raise the dividends, so give him some stocks.
Stock options.
That might be an option.
Okay, long-term incentive, because if they increase a stock prices, their stock option value will go up. In order to increase the value of the stock option, its current stock price has to be much higher than strike price. If that is the case, that will be their extra premium. And stock price will increase as much as you save money, so they are not going to use extra cash flow, free cash flow for private jet and a extra office, fancy office. Okay.
Neutral line there, they're good with your.
Yep. This is the that's the long term. Short term wise, cash bonus. If you make over and above $20 million net income, extra with 5% of that extra income over and above $20 million will be your cash bonus. I'm not gonna waste my money on corporate jet because I know extra income, I report 5% is my cash bonus. So this discussion, this is not a simple discussion. This has to do with the corporate governance. That's why 10K plus now proxy statement is a must read. Proxy statement. In proxy statement, they disclose who owns how many shares, what kind of a compensation agreement they have with company, all these different items. How many of them sold their own shares, purchased their shares? Proxy statement is and contains all those information. Yeah, please.
Break.
Oh.
Get to the break.
Um,
Want to go a little while longer? Yeah, like a breakout time.
I thought we just started.
I know you're on a tear here. I don't want to stop you.
Look, if you have to go, and you have to go, but let's go to 10. Okay. Let's go to 15 more minutes, and I think we still have a class, so let's time. We usually go to 10, right?
Okay. 10 to?
Let's go to 10.
I'm sorry. You need to break and roll? I'm not sick, I'm sorry. I was trying to take the first row from Mario over there. It's okay.
See, financing activities are once in a while you have this loan for your financing activities. Bank loan bond comes due and company does not have necessary funds on hand. In other words, this is the kind of debt everybody debt. When a company consistently pay off debt by taking on new debt. In other words, you don't have money, so you're borrowing money to pay all debt off. At maturity, you borrow money and pay out. Everybody debt, which is okay for a startup, a growing company. For mature companies, saturated industries, maybe not okay. You have to find out. Here, fund to pay dividends and repurchase stock about this is not allowed on user account. Many of the debt covenants would specifically say, for this loan period, you are not going to do this. You are not going to do this. This is borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Don't do that. If you are just diverting money to here, and most of unless you are Microsoft, in which case you don't have to borrow money. This is a very special case. Bank must be persuaded to do this. Credit. Who supplied credit? See, here we have bank loan is a private debt. Do you know bank loan? We thought, oh, bank loan is a public debt. Bank loan, see, public debt is this. You are borrowing money from general public. That's the public debt. Who can borrow money from public? Those who have a good credit rating. Otherwise, Goldman Sachs will say, oh, I'm not going to underwrite your debt because you have junk grade, speculative grade. So here, if you have, let's say, triple B minus or above, usually triple B, and some form is triple B 3, 2, 1, and then A minus, and all the way to triple A. You have access to a debt financing, public debt. Now, depending upon credit rating, your interest payment will be different. So how much you're paying interest is a function of what kind of credit rating you have. I think Verizon has, I could be wrong, a while ago, Verizon has barely a credit rating right here. What if they go here? that $5 billion interest expense will be $6-7 billion. As I share at the beginning of the class, in New York City, 1986-7, they had to pay $75 million extra interest because Standard & Poor's and Moody's downgrade their bond rating from BBB to BB+. One downgrade, New York City had to pay $75 billion extra interest. Can you imagine that happening to a company like Verizon? $110 billion debt? You are junk rate now? That will put pressure on. So you go to contact underwriter, and then underwriter will say this: okay, I will sell your bond up to $2 billion. Let's say $2 billion. About median amount for maybe the Fortune 50 company, one-time bond issue, $2 billion. For this, compensation would be for stock and bond issue. They ask what's the underlying security. In other words, if I underwriting your bond, I need your bond as a compensation. So they will get certain portion of this as a compensation, and that is only underwriter. And the other one will be lawyers and accountants. So underwriting a bond issue and stock issue for the first time, this is really a lot of money. So they will guarantee sale of $2 billion for this company if they agree with good bond rating. So in this case, they are not gonna bother. These 2 million people, let's say 2 million people, bond investors, let's say 2 million people purchase $2 billion all over the world. They are not gonna bother your operation because they are spread all over the world. As long as you pay interest, they will be fine. This is really inflexible when you file a Chapter 11. In other words, you have to renegotiate the debt. Somehow you got in big trouble all of a sudden. You have to renegotiate that. You can't do that because you have to renegotiate with 2 million or 1 million people. But that is not the case with private debt here. Bank loan, you sit down with bank and renegotiate a loan agreement. Look, forgive my interest up to this point, extend maturity date, lower interest rate, because that will be much better than you don't get nothing out of it. So this is, bank loan is flexible. In that regard, bank loan is flexible. Problem with bank loan, once you borrow money from bank, they will demand monthly financial statement. Give me current ratios, quick ratios, working capital by the end of the month. They will intervene your operations. And then, trade credit, non-bank financing like private equity fund, white knight fund here, this one. Lease financing, lease. This is a major topic today, lease, later on. Now rule is changing. In other words, rule is you have to capitalize all the operating leases on the financial lease. That was not the case. Up until this point, they show small amount of capital lease, and then 70-80% of the lease on footnote as an operating lease. we all know, and I think we, from your financial reporting class, this is a obvious why manager like the operating leases rather than a capital leases. If this is a balance sheet and income statement, under operating leases, all you have to do is rental expense. Monthly rental expense, that's it. In your break, you are using 30 aircraft in Philadelphia Airport. And you say, oh, rental expense to Boeing Corporation, XX dollar amount. That's it. And you show how much is operating lease on the footnote. That is a required under a operating lease. But under capital lease, you have to say here, under capital lease, capital lease asset, aircraft must be here, 30 aircraft must be here. Long-term lease obligation here, present value of long-term lease payment obligation must be here, and 30 aircraft, millions of dollars, that will ruin your direct ratio easily. That's why they try to avoid this low. And under a capital lease, what do you have here? Depreciation expense, interest. From present value point of view, during this time period, this has to be saved, right? This has to be saved, total present value. Yeah, market is efficient. If there's a gap between this and this, yes, you will make money by doing intermediate, by taking advantage of that market all. Market is efficient. Over 10 years, 15-year lease period, total rental expense under a operating lease will be same as a depreciation expense and interest expense combined under capital leases. Only difference is the type. Now we are getting into a little bit tricky. This is dollar, this is the time period. For operating lease, this is the operating lease. This is how much you pay. How much you pay. Rent lease. But for the capital lease, this will be this way. And total amount will be the same. But for only part of capital lease, expense from depreciation and interest expense will be much higher than a rental expense under operating leases. That's why company will be under heavy pressure on their income statement whenever they do brand new capital lease. One more reason why they hate capital leases. Why this is the case? Why always hate brand new young capital lease? Why their depreciation expense and interest expense is higher than later period? Later period will be amortized out, so total absolute amount will be the same whether you measure this way or measure it this way. If market is efficient, that's it. Why? This is the accounting question, and in order to understand this, we need to go through this amortization. Why? Anyone? Well, how come it's only, this is the capital, cap. And this is the operating.
Because of time value of money.
Time value of money. Time value of money. And for interest expense here is this, long-term lease obligation. At first, you have huge obligation and you are paying down over time. So for huge obligation upfront, you have to pay higher interest expense, right? And for brand new asset, depreciation expense will be much higher, yeah, it's sort of accelerated depreciation expense. That's why this operating lease will solve most of problems associated with financial reporting for managers as opposed to operating. Operating lease is a dream accounting when you are highly leveraged, when you are under pressure to post target EPS. This is the way. That's why capital intensive industry, they have 70-80% on operating leases, 20-30% on capital. Go to Best Buy, we'll see that. Well, Best Buy.